Hey guys, Dave here. Well, last week we made up the Lost Cabin hamburger skillet that everybody loved so much, and this week we're going back to that cabin flavor and making up a hillbilly ground beef steak. It ain't no steakhouse sizzler, but it's mighty fine tasting. First off, the old ingredients. We got some potatoes, some butter, flour, breadcrumbs, an onion, ground beef, an egg, some beef broth, olive oil, garlic powder, onion powder, mushrooms, pepper, salt, Worcestershire sauce, and ketchup. Okie dokie, the first thing we're going to do here is salt up a pot of water, and we're going to go in with those potatoes. Now, these are russets here, but you can use up whatever potatoes you like. And we're going to bring this to a boil and let it boil away, I don't know, for about 12 to 15 minutes until those potatoes are tender. Okie dokie, while the potatoes are boiling up, I'm going to go into a mixing bowl with about a pound of medium ground beef. And we'll season this up with a bit of salt, maybe about half a teaspoon, some ground black pepper, and you know me and the old ground black pepper. I don't know, about a teaspoon and a half, something like that. And I always say you can use white pepper too. Half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of the old garlic powder. Now you can use fresh garlic too, as long as you chop it up or mince it up fairly well. And of course some onion powder. And again, you can use fresh onions as long as they're chopped really fine. About a tablespoon of the old W or Worcestershire sauce. And dadgummit, I'm getting low on this. Another tablespoon of ketchup, plain old ketchup. We'll follow this up with an egg, and then about a quarter cup of good old breadcrumbs. Then I'm just going to throw on the old gloves and use my hands, and we'll just kind of mix everything together. Now, here's the thing. I usually put a few more things like Italian seasoning, of course, and stuff like that in my hamburger mixture. But remember, we're at the cabin and supplies are limited here. But it's kind of funny. I got thinking last night when I was planning this recipe that I cannot remember when I was growing up ever having a steak. I mean, this is a hamburger steak, but I can't remember ever having a T-bone. It was always hamburger based, chicken, cream of salmon, stuff like that. But times were a little tough then, and I just can't remember. Okay, guys, we're mixed up here, and this is looking mighty fine. Of course, you can make this into a great big hamburger patty steak, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is grab up about a good handful of that, and then we're just going to kind of form this into a patty. I mean, if you got one of those burger makers, that would work well too. Now remember, these are going to shrink a little bit, but I think that's pretty good. Just about like that. So we'll set the side on a plate, and we'll probably get, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these, something like that. So what happened here, I got about 3 good-sized patties out of this, and there are only 2 of us eating, so I mean 1.5 each is fine. You probably could have stretched and got 4 out of a pound, but entirely up to you. Now I got the old cast iron skillet heated up, and I love cooking with cast, but of course you don't have to use cast iron. You can just use a regular frying pan for this, but you know, the cast is always good. Then we're going to go in with those patties. And as you can see here, I added a bit of oil, just so we don't get the old stickage. And we'll let these guys fry up until they're basically cooked through. And actually, while these are cooking up, I want to thank everybody for your support on the Lost Cabin Skillet there. It's got 150,000 views and climbing, so everybody must have liked it. And we gained about 400 new people, 400 new subscribers into the Cook and Sharing community. So I just want to welcome everybody to Cook and Share and thank everybody who's come back. And of course, we're going to give these guys a flip over. Got a bit of a char on there, which is good. Now these are basically done. I'm just going to take them out, and we'll set these aside on a plate to rest. Okie dokie. Now what we're going to do is grab up that onion that I showed you, and we're going to slice this, I'd say, into medium slices, because we're going to make a nice onion gravy. Now in that same pan that we cooked the patties in, I'm going to go in with about, I don't know, a little bit more butter, half a tablespoon, something like that. I'll just let this melt down. You want to keep the same pan because you got all that wonderful flavor happening in there. Then we shall just ring up and toss in those onions that we cooked up. And how many onions you got or want is entirely up to you, of course. And we're just going to fry these up until they're a nice golden brown. And while I was sitting around the fire last night, you might say it's crazy having a fire in the seat. I just love a fire. But anyway, I got to thinking that when we were at the cabin, my mom never once cooked over the open fire. She always cooked in the cabin, in the kitchen, over the old Finley oval stove. It was a wood fire stove, but I don't know why on earth we never cooked over the open fire. But this dish would be nice done over the open fire. And I got to thinking, I had some mushrooms kicking around, so I'm going to throw those in as well. I'll just cook these up until they begin to change color here a little bit. Okie dokie, mushrooms have begun to change color. So, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And we'll just let this cook up and stir this and let it cook up for about 1 minute. Now that flour has covered everything and cooked up. I'm going to pour in 2 cups of good old rich beef broth. Just kind of give everything a whisk around here. And you might be saying, Dave, how did you get that beef broth so dark? Well, I added in a bit of Bravo. I kind of cheated. We didn't have that at the cabin, but I thought, what the heck. Now we'll season this up with some Worcestershire sauce. You should really add about a tablespoon, but this is all I have left. I got to go to the store and get some more. Tad bit of salt, and of course some ground black pepper. Now we'll let this simmer away for a few minutes. We whisk every now and then. Just let it thicken up a little bit. But this is looking so good. And it's actually smelling pretty mighty fine, my friends. Okay, now that gravy has thickened up and simmered a little bit, I'm going to go back in with those ground beef steaks. Just look at this. Don't they look good? And of course, we'll spoon some of that wonderful gravy over the top. Even some onions and some mushrooms over them. And I've reduced the heat to low, and I'm just going to let these simmer away. And so if the burger steaks weren't already totally cooked, that's fine. They're going to cook up here because we're going to allow these to simmer away, like I said, over low heat for about 10 minutes. Okay, well, the steaks are simmering away in the gravy. Let's make up the mashed potatoes, and I'm going to go in with about a tablespoon, or half a tablespoon, I guess, of butter, and about half a tablespoon, depending on how many potatoes you have, of milk. And I always add some garlic powder to my mashed potatoes. So I don't know, half a teaspoon, something like that. And of course, a little bit salt and pepper to taste. And we're just going to go ahead and mash these guys up. And these are some mighty fine potatoes. And I don't know, guys, if you find them a little on the dry side, I usually go in with just a little bit more milk just to make them creamier. You can also use a potato ricer, I guess, but I do have one, but I'm not going to use it today. And there you have it. Our mashed potatoes are done. You might be asking about the outdoor kitchen. I'll throw a clip out there. It is coming along, but it's not quite filmable yet. I just kind of want to move it around so we can get into the front with the camera, but it is coming along. I've used it a few times with the barbecue. Really good, and it is basically functional now. We are pretty much done here, folks, so we're going to plate this up, and I'm going to begin by adding some of those mashed taters into the center of the plate. Give you something like this. Then that ground beef steak over the top. And of course, you just gotta have some of that gravy spooned over. I'm going to plate this up a couple of ways just to show you different variations. And for heaven's sakes, don't forget those mushrooms and onions. And this one, we're going to put the ground beef steak at the side. And of course, mushrooms and onions over there. And of course, we got to have some over the taters here. Look at that. And to be all fancy, fresh from the garden, we're going to garnish things up with some parsley, just to get that greenage effect in there. Doesn't that look good? And there you have it, my friends, our down-home sequel to the Lost Cabin ground beef hillbilly supper. These steaks are going to be so good, I'll bet you. Okay, guys, there are a lot of variations to this supper. I mean, it doesn't have to be mashed potatoes. It could be fries or something like that, maybe baked in the oven or something, whatever you decide to do. You can vary the mashed potatoes, what you put in the burger steak. You don't have to add mushrooms, blah, blah, blah. It's entirely up to you. Even some corn on the side, or I don't know, some cornbread, something like that. And you might be asking, why do you always call or often call stuff hillbilly? Well, I say that with the ultimate compliment. Because I grew up in a town of about 300 or 400 people, and we were country living, close-knit. We didn't cotton very well to outsiders. So this type of cooking, and watch my mom cook, this type of cooking is right up my alley. So you are going to love this, and like I say, vary it however you want. All right, let's grab some of this up. I'm going to cut into that burger steak there, and just look at that. Perfectly, to me, in my humble opinion, perfectly done. Wow, this is going to be so good, nice and thick, and I bet you it's going to be juicy too. Okie dokie, I think I've got just about everything on here, so let's give it a taste. You know, like I said, it isn't no steakhouse sizzler, but it sure is good. Inexpensive. I mean, there's everything there, and I just love it. Like, I could eat this, put on my rotation once a week, something like that. You're really going to love this. And if you do make it, leave me a comment, because I do love to read them, and I read every one of them and reply to every one of them. Most of all, like, helps the channel out, and subscribe. Why not? It's free. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks so much. And if you didn't check out last week's video on the Lost Cabin, go back and check that out. And we shall see you in the next video.